Hi folks, Joseph Kursky here with you to analyze glaciers of the world inside ArcGIS Online. Now ArcGIS Online is a software as a service platform. All you need is a web browser and an internet connection to examine it, to examine patterns, relationships, trends. So on the instructional side, even at this level, I've got glaciers of the world and a topographic base map. Two map layers in here. I can pan to the west and you can see that this is a seamless map of the world. Even at the most basic primary school level, I can have the students analyzing patterns that yes, altitude matters. So if I, for example, if I scroll over here to British Columbia, I can see that these higher elevations have glaciers on them. So elevation matters. What if I went to Nepal? Another place where glaciers are fairly common. So altitude matters. What if I didn't know what the altitude was there? Yeah, I can look at this topographic map and sort of get an idea, but if I log in to ArcGIS Online and add a couple of layers, I can add things, for example, in the Living Atlas of the World, which is a set of hundreds and hundreds of wonderful map layers at your fingertips. So one of the things that I've added is the world land elevation zones. So each one of these tones on here, these colors, corresponds to, as I've turned on the legend, corresponds to an elevation, as you can see right here. I can also get even more detailed. Let's say I want more specifics, like I'm really zoomed in to a large scale here, not much area, but a lot of detail. I also have this world elevation layer at my fingertips, so I can get into, let's turn off glaciers for the moment, and then let's click on one of these areas in the world elevation data set. I can really get specific in terms of what the elevation is at specific areas. For example, right here. So I can get a sense that yes, this is a lot higher than this. This is almost at sea level. And so then looking at the glaciers, yes, altitude or elevation matters. Let's turn this off and zoom out again. Let's talk about latitude for a moment. So latitude matters, right? Northern high latitudes, you can see some glaciation up there. And also, of course, southern, so Antarctica and even southern South America. I can navigate that way. I can grab the shift key and zoom in to specific areas. When I let go, it zooms me to that area. I can also, as you saw, type in a place in the search box and go right there. I can also add that to map notes. So now if I turn on map notes, I've got a nice place marker there and I can go back to it anytime I want. I can also go to bookmarks. If I go to Switzerland, for example, I'm right there. I can set up new bookmarks if I want or use existing. So lots of ways to navigate, but altitude matters, latitude matters, but also the relief of the land has something to do with it too. You can talk about north-facing versus south-facing slopes in different hemispheres. So for example, I've got a world hillshade, and if I turn that on, I can see that the relief actually has something to do with the persistence of glaciers. So if I turn that on, a lot more rugged, higher altitudes, and also the relief of the land and the persistence of the snow on the north-facing slopes in the northern hemisphere, conversely, southern hemisphere. Let's take a look at New Zealand. So over there, you've got the south-facing slopes, right, being more persistent in terms of albedo and sun angle and persistence of glaciers. Fascinating to be able to do this with a few layers, with a few tools at your fingertips in ArcGIS Online. One additional thing I'd like to show you, every one of these layers that we've been looking at is a feature service. Now, what do I mean by that? It's like the Lego bricks that go into the final Lego construction. So for example, if you go to Glaciers of the World and click on these dots, these three ellipses, you can see that it is a layer, and you can open it, for example, in the scene viewer. So if I open it in the 3D scene viewer, I've got additional ways of examining that. For example, in this 3D globe. See, now I've got this immersive 3D effect, and I can add those other layers, for example, the shade of relief and so on. So I've got different ways now of interacting here. If I go to British Columbia and I take a look at this in 3D, now I can really see how elevation, slope, aspect, or the direction of slope actually matter. That's what's fascinating to me, is that with this data, you've got the ability to looking at it in 2 dimensions and also 3 dimensions. And just like in the 2-dimensional world, we can look at imagery as the base map behind the glaciers. I'm going to go to Nepal now, going from British Columbia over to Nepal. But being able to do this kind of thing, I think is wonderful in the three-dimensional view of things. And you can do that with any of the layers inside ArcGIS Online. Now, one last thing, in this same web map I have, stay tuned for a different video on this in more detail, but I've got the sea level predicted rise 1 and 5 meters. So if I turn that layer on, I'm going to turn that layer on and then turn off the world hill shade. Now I can see, for example, I'm still in New Zealand, I can see different places that would be impacted differently by sea level rise. So getting students to think about these things in conjunction with each other, looking at ocean currents, elevation, latitude, north versus south facing slopes, sea level, ecoregions, changes in land cover, changes in biodiversity as climate changes, looking at space and time with ArcGIS Online, a powerful tool at your fingertips with maps, tools, analysis, a tool for encouraging spatial and temporal and critical thinking. Thanks.